16 years.
Yeah. See, my trainer agrees. Yeah.
US guy out of that
Yeah.
Should I take your spot?
They just wanted him for a month or 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Still there. 6 months.
Deal.
6 weeks. That's right. I love it.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started because I am excited about this. I'm very excited. All right, so thanks for coming today. We're talking about overcoming interview anxiety, or as some of you have said, it could also be overcoming presentation anxiety. So this is me teaching myself. FYI, I'm Jen Crosby. I've been working at STG for a year and a half. I'm over in the Dev Center. As we talk about interview anxiety, I was a stay-at-home mom for 23 years. So when I came in to interview with Brian, that was my first interview literally in 23 or 24 years. And I had serious interview anxiety. You probably could tell that. But he was kind to me, so it worked out okay. So there's a little bit about me. Some things I really love. I love my family. I love Disney, and I love chocolate. Some things I hate. I'm terrified of the water, and I'm going to talk to you about that in a little bit. But I'm first of all going to introduce my trainer, Jeff Baird, and let him introduce himself for a minute. Tell us about you, Jeff.
Who was here when I was here last time? Okay, so you remember the body language stuff? What do you remember most about that?
Handshake.
Handshake? Cool. Well, after that presentation, Jen said she was interested in learning that material so she could continue to teach and train on the same material. So we've been training her for how many months?
Probably 6.
6 months?
6-ish months.
Yeah, and she's going to be doing a much better job of this than me, so I'm excited to see how it goes.
He's been a great trainer, so he's been very patient with me. And very giving me pep talks today too. That's been great too. So, as you think about interview anxiety or anxiety, kind of public speaking, it's sort of similar to an interview. Anybody ever feel that? Am I the only one? Okay. I mean, I feel it a lot. So when you are feeling some anxiety, a lot of times it feels like when you're driving down the street and you see this in the rear view mirror. How do you start to feel when you see that in the your rear view mirror? I don't understand.
They do wrong.
I didn't do anything.
Who said I didn't do anything?
And I get away.
I mean, well, so what physiologically starts to happen to you?
Heart races.
Heart races.
Mind starts to race. Did you get all the blood out of the carpet?
I think that every time, Brian.
Wow.
So we get anxiety over things, right? Well, so I told you I'm terrified of the water. So this past summer, we went on a road trip, my husband and I, who's here, Mark and I and our 2 boys. And one of the days we decided to spend at Lake Powell. And I am terrified of the water, so I brought my book, and I was gonna just be happy as could be sitting in my beach chair with my book while they went and played on the water. And I was totally okay with that. Until they wouldn't leave me alone about it, and I got peer pressured into getting on a jet ski with them. And when I say I'm terrified, I am not kidding. I am terrified of the water. I don't like the water in my face in the shower. I just don't like it. So how they talked me into that, I do not know. But they talked me into getting on a jet ski. Well, and they said, oh, you have a life jacket. And I thought, well, I don't really trust the life jacket. And Mark promised me he'd save me. So I trust Mark. So I got on a jet ski. And we went out, we were having a pretty good time, even though I was having all those same feelings as when you see that in the rear view mirror. I was having all those same feelings on that jet ski. I was terrified. And I just knew it was like, this is the story of how I died. I mean, I am going to die on Lake Powell. And we're going to have to call everybody can tell him that Mark killed me on Lake Powell on a jet ski. I don't know. No, he said he would save me if we went under, and so I trusted him and we got on, and we did go into the water one time. I did panic very, very much. He did save me, and I'm here to tell the tale. He did save me, and all was well. But though it was very similar to how we feel a lot of times in an interview, and when we have public speaking opportunities. Some of those same feelings for me were just as real as that terror was for me there on Lake Powell. And 92% of people say they experience anxiety in an interview setting. So that would be about 2 people in this room maybe that wouldn't be experiencing interview anxiety. So I don't know, are there 2 of you in here that it doesn't bother? Because I want to know your tricks. So. True, I know that actually. So we're going to have you teach us some tricks. Yeah. So it's pretty normal to experience interview anxiety. And there are some reasons why, and there are some things that we can do about it. And so that's what we want to focus on today, why we feel that way, and what can we do to not feel that way. Because we want to be able to present our best self. We want to be confident, and that's the image we want to portray. So we want to learn to control those anxious feelings. So first, we'll talk about why we get so worked up in an interview or public speaking, if it were. So we have the 2 parts of our brain. Well, this is very simplified. A couple parts of our brain. We have the thinking brain and the feeling brain. And I'm looking at Jeff to make sure I don't mess this up. He's going to back me up if I need to be corrected. So we have the thinking brain and we have the feeling brain. We have here the neocortex, which is not going to work. But so the thinking brain, it's where we process thoughts. We have rational thoughts where we think through problems and we problem solve. We have our feeling brain made up of the limbic system and the reptilian complex. And when we are starting to feel that anxiety, we start to have feel those feelings and we're anxious, our feeling brain is taking over and hijacking the thinking brain. And where that stands is, this is called the amygdala, and it triggers, along with the limbic system, a fight or flight response in our brains. And so it's normal, we all experience it. It's all here in our head. And perfectly normal for us to experience that. So what happens is the amygdala becomes our inner meerkat. So what do you notice about the meerkat?
Adorable.
It is pretty cute, right, Quinn? He's kind of cute. But what's he doing?
Always on alert.
Always on alert, right? He's like checking the environment, right? Scanning for danger, wondering what's around him constantly. So this is what our amygdala does. It's constantly searching and looking for, are we in danger? And wondering if you're a man-eating tiger. Are you a man-eating tiger? You're trying to decide, right? So in my brain, I hate to tell y'all, y'all are man-eating tigers right now. So I'm trying to tame them, okay? So that's what our amygdala is trying to figure out is, are we safe? And then it triggers all those emotions, right? And all those feelings that we feel physiologically. The same, similar as when we see those sirens in our rear view mirror, the lights, I guess, we see. So some of the physiological reactions we have when we see that. What do we have? Experience. Heart rate, what happens to it?
Increases.
It increases, right? You can feel the heart's just a going. Okay, what else? Get clammy and sweaty or cold or, right? We have these physiological reactions. Have you noticed what happens to your breathing?
Stop.
So we do stop. We really do stop and we kind of hold our breath and we forget to breathe other than when we absolutely have to. And so these are normal reactions. And they're not really helpful, right? Those are not helpful feelings when we're in a setting where we want to be confident and present our best selves. So they're not helpful feelings. So that's what we want to talk about and spend most of the time on today is not the why it happens, because we know it happens to us. We know it happens to everybody and it's pretty normal. But really what we want to know is, what can I do about it, right? So if we have this thing going on in our head and we've got the brain going and our amygdala is kind of, our inner meerkat is searching and thinking everybody's a man-eating tiger, what am I going to do about it? Because we can do some things about it. And that's what I think is great. There are things that we can do to make it better. and that poor Charlie Brown can figure out what to do, what he can do about it. So we've got 4 tips today to rein that in, some interview hacks, if you will. Tip number 1 is to be prepared. And I think, Boy Scouts, we've all heard that, be prepared. It's an important thing. When we're prepared for whatever our experience is going to be, it's going to be better if we're prepared for it, whatever that experience is. So the first part of being prepared is to communicate. And I think it's really, really great. Our consultants here at STG have a lot of really good people to communicate with. You've got account managers, you've got clients, you've got recruiters, you've got people you can talk to about what's this company like, what are they looking for, what are they looking for in this interview, what are they trying to find out. So communicate. I think that's really a very key point, is to keep those lines of communication open. Because your account managers can tell you what they're looking for. Is that right? And do you like it when you're communicated with about interviews? Yes, I'm getting a lot of nods. Okay. I'm getting nods, that's a good thing. So do that and talk to, we also, a lot of times when we're at a client, we have fellow STGers that are also there. You can talk to them. What's the culture like? What's this team looking for? What can I bring to the table? Do your preparation and communicate. The next thing to do is to anticipate questions that you may have, that you're going to get. Think through, what are possible scenarios? What are they going to ask me? How am I going to answer it? To do this, you can look at their website. Again, communicate. You can practice interview questions, recruit somebody to help you do a mock interview. Because the more you practice, the more it becomes part of just who you are and how you respond. It's easier to overcome the anxiety in the interview because you've already practiced and you already know how to respond to that. We have something we talk about in the Dev Center often is, how do I respond to, I don't know the answer to the question. We talked about this when you were, right, Alan? How do I respond to an I don't know question? And how do I approach whiteboarding an interview for a technical interview? So I asked Brian, because he always has great advice on that, to come up and talk. Yeah, you know this.
Right answer.
He always has a great answer on how to answer the I don't know something question.
So probably the most common question I get asked, or response that I'll get in an interview that I hate, is a better way to phrase it, is, why just Google it? How do you do this? I just Google it. I don't even know that. That's fair. That's an acceptable answer. We actually had a lengthy discussion about this for about probably 45 minutes one day. And if I'm in a bad mood, my response is, yes, my 16-year-old son can Google things as well. Why should I pay you $100,000 a year and not him $100,000 a year? That's a little snarky of a response, but depends the mood you catch me in. There are more creative ways to say I don't know, rather than just blurting out, I don't know. You can say things, well, I had an instance, for example, one of the interviews I had was with the courts over here. And they had done soap for years. I did soap way back in my career for a long time, did soap services. And they asked me a very specific, very articulated question surrounding security with soap. And I said, you know what? I've just spent the last 2 years doing RESTful services. I've done that with soap. I know how to do that. It's just not on the top of my mind right now. I keep going to the RESTful answer. So I don't know the exact response right now, but if you would like, I would be happy to produce some code for you showing you that I know how to do it. If you give me an hour, I'll come back to you with a very coherent response surrounding it. But then I don't know. Instead of just going, I can Google that for you. I don't know. And you know what they said? Totally acceptable answer. That's actually, that doesn't surprise us at all. Looking at your resume, it's clear you did this in the past, and that hasn't what you've been focused on the previous year. Some other things that what you're looking for. One of my favorite books surrounding this topic is The Ideal Team Player, And nobody knows everything, in technology, let alone in just one specific silo in technology. Nobody knows anything about it. You're looking to see somebody's aptitude to grow and learn. How hungry are they? They label people as hungry, humble, and smart in that book. You want to see how hungry somebody is. And so if I can tell that this individual has a desire to learn, that's another great response. Oh, you know what? I've been focusing on these technologies and I just haven't got to that yet. I've been doing all of these things. That's the next thing I'm looking at. I haven't got to it yet. You're like, hey, you know what? They have knocked all this stuff out of the park, and I can see that that's where they're transitioning to. It's pretty clear to me to see that they're building up to that, and that's why they haven't gotten to it. So again, they're still telling me I don't know, but they're coming back with, here's everything I do know. I'm sorry, I don't know that piece. You gotta be careful. There are times that you feel like you're getting BS'd, or if you really don't have a good answer, it's okay to say, I'm just gonna be honest with you, I really don't know. I haven't done that. And maybe there's a reason you haven't done that. I really like back-end development. I like middle tier, I like business logic, I like RESTful services. I hate JavaScript. Try not to say in an interview that I hate JavaScript, but I say, I really like to focus more on the back end. I can do the front end stuff, and I'm okay there, but I'm really more comfortable in the back end. People appreciate honesty. I can't tell you how many times I've told somebody, that's just not really the stuff I usually choose to work on, and they go, fair enough, we know where you're happy at. We know the area that you want to work in, and we'll migrate towards that. So you can easily say, I don't know, without just coming across as flippant and saying, I don't know, and I don't want to do that.
Okay, what about whiteboarding in an interview?
Whiteboarding, yes.
We love whiteboarding.
Every developer I know under the sun hates whiteboarding interviews. Hates it. I have not talked to a single person who said, I just love them, it's what I really want to do.
Ron Taylor likes them.
Do you, Ron? Do you?
That's the only ones that I really see.
He's not a developer though. He's a deity.
Good
So
stuff.
that's a little different stuff.
Wow.
No,
Wow, that just changed the perspective all of a sudden.
whiteboarding, what most people, to be fair, there is one exception, and it was me. I've had one whiteboarding interview in 22 years that they literally said, I want you to solve this problem, handed me a marker, and they got up and walked out of the room. And I went, wow, I don't get to ask you any questions. I don't get to set any parameters. I got nothing. So I stood up there and wrote as fast and furious as I could and was sweating bullets, and they came back in and I'm like, I don't know, I'm out. So, I was so frazzled by the time that I walked out of there, and I didn't take that job. They offered me a job and I said, if this is the type of people I work with, we're good, I'm out. Whiteboarding is a great way for you to have a conversation. What most people don't realize is they're giving you the mic, they're giving you the keys, they're giving you the opportunity to now ask them questions. A lot of times people use whiteboarding as a crutch because they actually suck at doing interviews. So they're like, hey, if I can go give them a marker, I don't have to ask any questions because I hate doing these things as much as they hate sitting in them. It gives you the chance to actually take the reins and be in control. So to have that, they're looking for a conversation. I don't know, 99.9% of the time, I don't know of a single person that wants to know that your code compiled exactly how it was. I'm going to use the IDE for that it's syntactically down to every little nut and bolt, or that this was spelled exactly how it should be. They're not looking for that. They want you to ask questions because they're usually looking to see how you are culturally. A lot of times people are very passionate about their code. They don't want to find out that you're real arrogant about how you deal with your code. Curly braces always on the same line, never the next line. You'd have to be an idiot if you did it on the next line. By the way, how do you guys do yours? Well, we always do it on the next line. Oh, well, it's over. I've seen those mistakes made. People will just wear all their colors right on their sleeve. So why whiteboarding is great is it gives you the chance to drive that conversation. Hey, I've got this method. God, do you guys care? What about the inputs? Do I need to check to make sure that they're null? Do I need to make sure that they're in certain bounds? What about exception handling? Can I return null? Can I return an object? Do I always have to return an object? Should I use Java 8 optionals? Should I do some other construct in a new language? Is it a prototype instance, or can I return the same instance? They're looking to see how you drive that conversation with them. They go, hey, he actually gave us a problem that we hadn't really thought of, or a response that we had never seen. And so you get to freeform that interview at that point, and you're in control of it. 99 out of 100 times, they're looking for you to just talk through what you would do. They're not looking for syntactical, exactly how the code should compile or down to each little character. That's not what they're driving with that. Cultural fit.
Yes, I was gonna, yeah.
Cultural fit. So much of that is centered around them just wanting to see how you're going to work with their team on tackling problems. And you asking questions and seeking to understand, if you guys have read The Anatomy of Peace, one of the books we really recommend, if you're trying to seek to understand how they deal with things or how their team works with, a lot of times you'll get asked questions, if you come across a really difficult problem, how would you escalate that through the team? People sometimes try to muddle through an answer, well, I always do this, I do this. It's great answers. You know what? It sounds like you maybe have had some problems with that in the past. How would you like me to bring that up with the team? I'd be happy to do it however you want. If you want me to break it to the architect, I'll bring it to the architect. If you want me to do peer reviews, I'll do that. If you want me to do something else, I'm more than happy to do whatever you want. I've got a lot of experience doing it at different clients, and they've all have their pros and cons. So which would you like to talk about? Again, you take back control of the conversation and make them answer the questions for you. And they'll tip all their cards to you. So whiteboarding seems scary. It never really is. They just want to see how you're going to interact with other people. It has very little to do with the actual code that you're writing on the board.
Okay.
Anything else?
Not right now. All right, thank you. Okay, so one way to be prepared, right? Anticipate those questions and anticipate that you may have to whiteboard, and how are you going to handle it when you get those questions. So it's so important that you think through those things beforehand. Makes a big difference. Another thing is we can power pose. Now, you're not going to power pose in the actual interview. You're going to do it before the interview, right? That would be much better.
If you are the ordinary in the present.
He wants to show you up.
I don't know.
See it.
Calls down.
You guys, you're good, man. He wants to see it if you're going to do it. So actually, he doesn't want you to do it, right? Don't do it in an interview. Do it before. You have all probably seen Amy Cuddy's TED Talk about this. And there's been some controversy lately about whether that really actually works, is to power pose before. You know what? Try it out, see if it works for you. If it works for you, do it. And if it doesn't work for you, don't do it. Give yourself a locker room speech instead. Pep yourself up, tell yourself you can do it. And if you need to power pose and do the Wonder Woman thing for 2 minutes before you stand up here and do this presentation, do it if it works for you. Okay, so that's some of being prepared. Figure out what works for you. Another thing is to remember to breathe, right? So sometimes we stop. That's one of the reactions we have to anxiety, is we forget to breathe. And what we'll do, everybody, for the next just 10 seconds, do short, shallow breaths and see how you feel. How's it make you feel?
Why do you want me to pass out?
Okay, right? It's like trying to catch your breath, and it doesn't make us feel confident. It doesn't give us warm fuzzies, right? It makes us feel like we're gonna pass out. Now, take the next 10 seconds, a couple of big, deep breaths. How do you feel? Sleepy? No sleeping. That was really for me to help you calm down. There are a lot of techniques you can use to help you breathe. We have the 4-4-4, in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, release for 4 seconds. I've seen a 4-8-4. I've seen an 8-8-8. Lots of you can do. Look at meditation. You can look at yoga. Again, figure out what works for you, and remember to breathe. Take those deep breaths. When you have a question and you're like, I'm not sure how to answer that, you know what? It's perfectly acceptable in an interview to take a deep breath and pause for a minute and get that thinking brain back in charge instead of the feeling brain. perfectly acceptable. So remember to breathe, figure out what works for you. So I'm going to be prepared. The second tip I have for you is to kill the ants. So Dr. Daniel Amen, he's a neuroscientist. He coined this term, the ants. Anybody ever heard it besides Jeff, who trained me on it? Okay, so he calls ants automatic negative thoughts. Now, that's the voice in our head, right, that seems to be talking to us quite frequently. Does anybody else have a voice in their head, or is it just me? Okay, when you're in a situation going into an interview or public speaking or something, what kind of thoughts are those that little voice gives to you? What? Say that louder.
Negative.
They're negative, right? Usually, oh, this is going to be bad. Nobody's going to show up. Oh, everybody's going to show up. Oh, I mean, right? All these thoughts are going through our heads. So the automatic negative thoughts, and he says we should kill the ants. And so he gives us some ways we can do that. His first is to write them down. So just take them, all those things that are going through your mind. And this is, again, before the interview, not during the interview. Before the interview. You're going to write. And so I did this last night for my presentation, and I made myself stop. But write them down. Write down all your negative thoughts that voice in your head is telling you. Because you know what? You start to look at them, and you realize, it's actually not that logical that that's actually going to happen. Or some of them maybe are. One of mine that I wrote down was my laptop battery will die, because that's what happened last time I did one of these. Well, that's within my control, and now I wrote it down. I brought my charger or my power supply over with me. That was easy. Okay, so write them down. When we write them down, it makes them real, and we can look at them and see what's rational and what isn't rational, and what can I control. And then we can take those thoughts, and we can be the rebellious teenager and talk back to them. Okay, mine was, everybody's going to be bored. I'm thinking, well, everybody might be bored, but oh well, I don't know what to do about it at this point.
With pizza, they're fine.
Thanks, right? And then I was like, oh, somebody's going to ask a question I don't know how to answer. And I have Jeff here. It's okay. Jeff will be able to answer it if I can't. We could talk back to those thoughts and tell them they're not right. And Dr. Daniel Amen, when he tells the story about when he was going to do a TV interview, an interview, and he started having like a mild anxiety attack before he went on TV. And he was like, I'm going to forget my name. I'm going to forget who I am. And then he talks about how he's done hundreds of interviews on TV since that time. Nobody's ever asked his name. It didn't matter if he forgot his name, because they already knew who he was. They invited him there to do the interview. So, we can talk back to those thoughts and recognize what's rational and what really just isn't. So the next way we can kill those automatic negative thoughts is to reframe them. Tell yourself you're excited. So, okay, I'm not nervous about this presentation. I'm not nervous about this interview. I'm excited. This is going to be so much fun. I am excited to do this. And it's going to go well. Because you know what? I've prepared and I'm ready and it's going to go well. I've done everything within my power to make sure it's going to be okay. So reframe it. I'm excited. So I've been telling myself all morning, I'm so excited about this. This is really so much fun. I'm really excited. Okay? So we can reframe and we can change the way we think about things. And along those lines, there's been some studies, which I watched one of Jeff's webinars from a week or two ago. I hadn't heard this really, but new research suggesting that stress actually can be good for us. We can reframe that. Stress is destructive until the moment we believe it isn't. So when our body's under stress, maybe that's just our body preparing us to do our best. I don't know how you guys feel, but if I'm comfortable and I'm in my comfort zone, I get complacent. So sometimes a little bit of the low stress, a little bit of the anxiety, it's actually good for me. It helps me to be prepared. It helps me to be ready. It helps me to anticipate situations. So, reframe, and it can change a lot of things. Be excited about your interview. Don't look at them as the man-eating tiger. Reframe them to be nice people instead, because most people really are. Okay, so we're going to kill the ants. We're going to be prepared. Tip number 3, we're going to nail the first impression. Rick.
I have a question.
Matt.
So one thing that I heard that was really cool was recently I went to an interview for
Jonathan, I think, and the person walked out, the interview, it was very apparent this person was very nervous in the interview. He was sweating just
Well,
profusely.
I just feel bad for him.
Yeah, you did. And the guy walked out and he said, and I thought it was a great piece of advice, and it kind of goes along with what you're talking about, the excitement about it. He said, one piece of advice I will give you some feedback. He said, we are rooting for you. We're not in there trying to find something wrong to not hire you. We want you to do well so we can hire you. So you don't need to be nervous. We're on your side. And I think sometimes you view an interview as they're on this side and you're on this side, you have to prove something. They brought you in because they've seen something that they really like and they want to prove to themselves that what they're seeing is correct. So it's just a little bit of a different mindset. I thought that was really, really good feedback you gave them. So I think it's kind of interesting because it goes along with that being excited. So,
Yeah, thanks. Well, and to just reframe it, realize they're not there they're not the enemy. Yeah, they really want somebody to come fix their problem. They want to be able to hire you. So reframe it, be excited. So thanks, Matt. Okay, so we're gonna nail the first impression. So the first, resumes tend to tell the facts. Interviews tend to people hire off of gut feel. Okay, so studies show they hire off of gut feel. So they've already seen the facts about you on your resume. They're going to hire off of how they feel in this interview. So if you're doing an interview and you walk out and this is what you see, what do you think? What's his body language telling us?
It tells me he's getting called the bishop's office. Just be honest, all right?
All right, Brian. He might be, I don't really know.
Well, he's concerned about something.
He seems pensive.
He's pensive. Does this look like somebody who's confident and excited to be here in our interview? He's stressed, right? Which is normal. I mean, it is. We've talked about it. 92% of us feel this way. It's normal. So what if you walk out and you see this? How different is that? So look really different.
But it's also not like he's interested in what's coming out of work and that's something else
Right.
important to deal with.
So that's, nailing the first impression. We do not want to make ourselves smaller. And whether that's looking at a phone or a book or whatever, we want to stand up, sit up straight, and be confident. Maybe stand up and talk to the receptionist, not obnoxiously. Okay, right? But talk and have a professional conversation stand up and do that. Jeff, you said you tried that and it works well.
Yeah, I don't sit down anymore. But if I'm going to get interviewed, I don't want to sit down. I try to stand up and talk to people.
So, I mean, if you can, if that's something within your control, but you can certainly not do this. You can just, we don't want to pull out our phone and look disinterested. That makes us look small and less confident. Whether we're feeling great or not, if that's what we're doing, that's the message we're sending on when somebody walks out and sees us for their first impression.
If you're fidgety, embrace the whiteboard. You have to have something in your hand. You take that chance to get the marker and just diagram what that is. If you're nervous and you need something to fidget with, find the chance to take the whiteboard.
It's a very good point. Why do you think I have a clicker today? Right? I'm telling you, it's helpful, right? Ron, quit laughing at me. Okay. Ron's been watching me be anxious over this for the last 2 weeks. All right. Next, nail the handshake. Okay. We've talked about this when Jeff came. Nail the handshake. Firm handshake, straight up and down. That goes a long way. Alan, how do you think that worked? Really? I mean, right? What kind of impression does that give?
Don't give them the dead fish.
You also don't want to be so, but they're like, that really hurt. I mean, that's not the impression you want to leave either, right? Firm, but not too firm handshake. So nail the first impression by doing these things. And realize that really does make a difference. It makes, Jeff's done a lot of research on this lately, and it makes a difference, your first impression. It's
Don't they
pretty
call it a
fascinating.
10-second interview?
Sort of 3 hours of FaceTime.
Yep.
So
So many decisions about you in just that moment.
it's fascinating. And I find it fascinating. So nail the handshake. Nail the handshake and nail the wait time. Find something to look look confident, don't power pose while you're waiting. Go in the bathroom and power pose and then come out and feel confident. I mean, you can do that if you want to, Women, right? Am I here to audition for Wonder Woman? Anyway, yeah, not while you're waiting, before. Okay, so tip number 4 is to harness the power of body language. And when I think of that, I think of The Little Mermaid when Ursula says, don't underestimate the power of body language, right? I'm a Disney nerd, so that's right where I go to. What we do is 4 times, our nonverbals are 4 times more powerful than our verbals are. So it's really, there's a lot of power in body language and what we can do. So I have a couple of videos that I actually think we're going to skip. Yeah, actually, let's watch this. So notice, this is Lincoln who works with Jeff. And notice what he does during this interview. So, can you notice some of the things that he's doing? He's fidgeting. What else?
And it's always under the desk.
I think this is actually meant to be without sound, probably. But okay, notice what did he do? He's all over the place.
Leading with his forehead.
Okay, this is a different guy, but he's right. He's just all he keeps doing this. He's doing all kinds of
I
things.
get no respect.
Yeah, right.
He's touching his face.
He doesn't look comfortable. Right.
Not at all, right? Now, what if he's on the opposite end? And I was going to share this, but we're in the interest of time. I'm not. He has another video where he's like, he kicks back, and he's like, I'm awesome, you know. And he's, I mean, so you have 2 ends of the spectrum. Do you want to be on either end of that spectrum? You want to have confidence, but not so great. Like kick back in the interview and remember your audience. So we're going to harness the power of body language. Notice heads. What do we do when we're losing? Okay, as I was watching the Utes last week, it was really sad. We were doing this, right? What do we do with our head? It's down, right? But when we're confident, we're winning, what do? Our heads are up. So, remember, you don't want to be. Again, it goes back to that wait time picture. When you're doing this, we're not appearing and coming across as confident as we are and want to appear. So notice what you do with your head. Notice what you do with your arms and hands. In this picture, she's kind of doing some self-soothing behavior, doing this. That's what we do to make ourselves, we need to calm down and, maybe we're warming ourselves up because we're cold, but wringing hands together. Watch what you do with your arms and your hands. Another thing we do with our arms and hands sometimes is fidgeting with our tie, or for me, it'll be my necklace or something. When we play with ours, it's called a suprasternal notch right here. And that is a really self-soothing behavior. So you don't want to be in there straightening your tie or your collar or whatever. That is perceived as less confident. Another thing we want to avoid is blocking. So this again kind of goes to our hands. When we're doing this, we're blocking the other person. We're creating a barrier. Right? We're creating.
I'm an arm folder. Come on.
I know, right? There are times it's right, but okay. So there's a difference between that and this, right? Right? Or, right? There is a difference. So you
Don't
can.
furrow your brow and fold your arms.
There you go. Watch what your face is. Well, it's the whole thing. You have to take it all in context. And that's one of the things Jeff keeps training me on. You can't take one body language behavior and key in on it. You have to take it in context and read all the clues. And don't just focus in on one. So very important to do that. Another thing we do, though, sometimes is we block with our hands or whatever. We block our eyes. Oh, it's kind of like a kid. If I can't see you, you're not there. But we do it still as adults without even realizing it. We do this. My kids know when I'm frustrated at the dinner table because I'm always like, they know. They know. Oh, we pushed mom too far. They don't care, but they know. True? True.
That's when they're ready to attack.
Yeah, that's probably
We want her now.
We have worn her down. She is. Well, there's probably a lot of truth to that. So we don't want to do blocking. We want to be open and inexpensive. So we're not going to block. We're going to be open. And that makes us appear more confident and feel more confident. And I think that's one of the things that I find super fascinating about body language is the way we feel affects what we do with our body language. But what we do with our body language affects how we feel. We can change and help ourselves become more confident by learning some good body language behaviors. So, okay, so this is another link and we're going to skip actually. So we're going to use power body language instead. So as far as our face goes, things we can do. Genuine smile. Now everybody sit there and smile without moving your eyes. Just do a smile for me. How does that feel? Kind of fakeish a little bit.
Cast for the next Joker.
Right? So a genuine smile moves up to our eyes and it crinkles. We have these little wrinkles around our eyes when we have a genuine smile. So be genuine, smile. And you know what? It's going to make you feel better. It's going to make your interviewer feel better. Everybody's going to feel better when you're doing a genuine smile. And if you don't know how, practice. Okay? Practice. None of this, hi, it's really nice to meet you. I'm really glad to be here today. It's fake. Everybody knows it. You know, you want it to be genuine. The other thing, eye contact. It's so important to make eye contact. Now, does that mean, Alan, I'm in 100% of the time I'm in the interview, look you right in the eyes? What do you think?
That's serial killer.
Exactly, right?
That's right there.
Right? That's serial killer. Studies show 60 to 70% of the time making eye contact is about ideal. So you don't want to do it 100% of the time. You don't want to show the whites of your eyes because it looks serial killerish. It looks like I'm scared or I'm really nervous or I'm ready to attack, right? So, or that too. You never know. You never know. So eye contact. But if we're having a conversation and we're talking and you're asking me questions and I'm everywhere but looking at your eyes, what does that do?
You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and you're not interested, right? Do I look interested if I'm not? It shows disinterest and perhaps maybe incompetence. Whether that's actual or not, that's what the body language is saying. So it's really important we do the right eye contact. Make sure we are not crossing the line into creepy eye contact.
Or lying.
Or lying.
Someone can't look you in the eye, maybe they're lying to you.
Maybe, you don't know that, right? But it crosses your mind, doesn't it? If they can't look at you, you wonder, are they telling me the truth? And you don't really want to introduce that thought. So pay attention to what your eyes are doing. The other thing, we can use power body language with our feet. Our feet are a telltale sign of where our interest is. If you ever watch somebody and you're talking to them, and if I'm talking to you and I'm like this, if you look at my feet, she's ready to leave. She's done with this conversation because her feet, I might be looking at you, but my feet are pointed towards the door, right? Pay attention to what feet are doing. What your feet are doing, what the interviewer's feet are doing, right? You don't want to just turn yourself away. That says, hey, I'm not interested. I'm really not that interested in this job. I don't want it anyway. Whatever. Point your feet towards the people you're talking to. And that could be in a group. You can kind of see how they're doing here, or just one-on-one. If you're like me, I have a weird foot that always is out a little bit, so don't mistake that if you see that for thinking that I'm ready to be out the door. Because that's just normal for me. So you have to take it in context again. The other is with our torso. Harness the power of body language with your torso. Turn your chair towards your interviewer. Turn and be right there. Do a slight lean, okay? Slight lean in shows excitement and interest. Now, does that mean I want to be like, hi, Alan, how are you today? Yeah. Okay, but a slight lean shows, hey, I am interested. I want this job, I want this client or whatever. I'm interested. Rather than I distance myself and create as much distance between myself and the interviewers as I can. That does not show confidence and does not show that we want to be involved in that job. So, important things there. The other thing we can do is mirroring. Jeff talked about this when he was here a few months ago as well. And so this looks a little creepy when you start looking for the pictures of this. It's a little weird, but we do it naturally without even realizing we're doing it. So when you're talking to someone, you tend to, if I'm sitting like this, someone else is like, you don't even think about it, but we're mirroring. If we're getting along and we're building rapport, we're mirroring each other's body language. Watch it, it's kind of fascinating. If you're not seeing that, you may want to do that to build rapport, or if you're noticing your interviewer, it's not happening, you may want to stop and think why.
There's a YouTube video where the guy was told to mirror the interviewer, and he just does everything, every single thing.
Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. Let's be very clear, thanks, Alex. Because that's just creepy,
That
right?
is also serial killer.
Stalker.
So use mirroring naturally. Okay, make it be natural. It's not going to work if it's not. So yeah, you don't want to mimic every little. If I do this, you're going to do this, and if I touch, you're going to do that, and don't do that. Make it natural. You can, and it doesn't have to be every body language, but maybe the stance, maybe the eyes. Keep the eye contact. Pay attention to all the clues around you, not just one. Okay, so you can also, with your arms and hands, politicians are really great at this because they've been trained on this. They use expansive arms, palms up. That's more welcoming. They don't, or this is, what do you call it, Jeff? The carrot dip. But they do this because they know. Yeah. It's fascinating to watch it. When you start watching it, they are all trained mud snake people, I guess. I don't know. They all do it. But it's because, yes, that exactly, right? Because they don't want to do the point. Pay attention. You want expansive. You want to be open. The open palms means you're open. Okay, so other thoughts besides those are, don't force something to look natural because it won't. Right? If you're doing that mirroring, that we're trying to make it look natural, it's not going to. That's why we're going to practice, and maybe you practice it at home with your kids or your spouse or your friend in a not quite so stressful of a situation. Practice some of these. Pay attention to what's going on around you and what other people's body language is, but also yours. That's one thing Jeff told me when we started. Pay attention to what I do when I feel nervous. What do I do when I feel afraid or scared? And pay attention to what I'm doing. That way, that makes me more aware of what others are doing and what that probably means for them. So don't try to force it. It won't look natural and it will be bad. Practice it till it is natural and you become that. The other thought is read the interviewer's body language. If they're you think you're doing eye contact about the right amount of time, but they're kind of starting to move back and distance themselves, you may be having too much eye contact. And so you may need to break that up. Pay attention to what they're doing. We can read a lot from their body language too. Are they leaning forward? Are they interested in what we have to say? And if not, maybe you can make some adjustments to how you're answering questions or to the conversation that you're having. Adjust. Pay attention. Another thoughts, just phone and video interviews. We do a lot of those here. So I think this is probably could actually be its own brown bag because it's a whole big thing. But our tone of voice is really important on the phone. And when you smile, tons of studies that when the person on the other end of the phone can tell when somebody's smiling. So smile, you know what? Be confident. Do all those things you would do in a personal interview on a phone interview. And if you're doing a video interview, one of the other tips they give is to move the camera back so they see your hands too. We want hands visible, and that works on video conferencing as well. So another tip to do that. Watch your tone of voice. Studies show that lower tone of voice makes you perceived as more confident. So practice. There are lots of things that we can do for those as well. Another thought was some people suggested when you're on a phone interview with somebody, pull up their LinkedIn picture so that you're kind of still talking to them. You're talking to a person and you don't forget who you're talking to, and it becomes more of a personal conversation. So that's a whole bigger topic, and we can maybe cover that another day. But yes, Brian.
We've also had to do rarely, we've had to do some recorded interviews as well. So you get to record yourself. It's not a live.
Which is kind of scary.
Which is weird, but one of the things they taught us from recording stuff for Pluralsight. It goes on what you're saying of talk with a smile. They said to surround yourself with pictures around your desk, like a couple pictures. If it's your family, or if it's Disney, or if it's hiking or rafting or whatever your thing is, because it changes your mood while you're presenting. It creates a different atmosphere. So don't have this dark, dreary room.
I've noticed over the years doing phone interviews, I can tell when they're in the office trying to be silent enough that no one else knows that they're interviewing, or when they're sitting in their car or at home. You can tell the difference on the call. They're just how they're interacting with you directly because their surroundings are either closing them off or have left them open to be able to answer correctly what they want to answer.
Interesting.
I've also heard the standing up gives a lot more energy.
That makes a lot of sense,
I
Chick.
always stand up when I have to make an important phone call.
That's a great tip. Stand up. Yeah, great tip, because we feel more confident. We feel more confident when we do that.
At the same time, I can tell when someone's answering my questions and playing on the internet or
Not really
something else,
paying
watching
attention.
TV or something else. And they're distracted. You can tell when they're distracted on the phone. So you need to have that time on the phone in the interview. All the distractions disappear away from you. You're not typing on something else. You're not playing on your phone, a tablet or anything else. You're involved in that interview. If you're not involved in the interview, it's just as bad as sitting there leaning back in your chair and not paying attention to them across from them. You don't want to be there when they're acting that way.
No, it's true. We think we're multitasking, but we're really just not doing any of it well sometimes. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we can tame the beast. We can't tame the man-eating tiger. We can do it with all these things. We've got, thank you, somebody. Thanks, Jeff. So we can tame the tiger with these 4 tips. We can be prepared, kill the ads. We can nail the first impression. And don't underestimate the power of body language. Very important. So when you do this, you can do it too, just like Charlie Brown. So you can do it. You can do it. So we have about 5 minutes if anybody has any questions. Rick.
Fun fact.
Okay, I love fun
When
facts.
you use mirroring with body language, you naturally move your another person the same class. Actually, the interview where things get kind of closed out, you can actually put yourself in a position of more open body language without actually the other person negotiating
Yes.
where it needs to be.
Good tip. Thank you. Thank you. Any others? Brian?
Can't remember if you said this one earlier or not, but one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is rushing themselves to an interview.
I did not say that, but that's a good one.
Plan to give yourself there. I don't care if you get there 20 minutes early. Don't go in a half hour early.
Sit in your car,
Yeah,
but
sit out there, review the notes you've made, think through how you'd answer questions or whatever. But if you're racing to get to a location and you walk in there and your heart rate's already sitting at 120 beats per minute, you're not going to do as well in the interview if you walk in nice and cool and relaxed and just ready to take.
Absolutely.
But to arrive early enough that you can go in and adjust your tie and comb your hair, splash water on your face.
power pose.
Even before you go out and tell the receptionist you're there for a purpose, for what it is.
Yeah.
Gives you that time to straighten yourself up and relax before you walk in.
Good thought.
I also think a mindset, we talk a lot about mindset here, but I think the mindset of understanding that it's not 100% in the interviewer's favor. You're there, the more equal the interview is, the more confident you come at it. If you're there begging for a job versus there to, yeah, I'd love to see if this is a good fit for both of us.
You're interviewing them as well, right?
Yes. And some of the best interviews I've ever seen, the person being interviewed asks nearly as many questions as the person doing the interview. I always hate that at the end of an interview when the client says, so do you have any questions for us? No, you've answered all my questions. It's just a cop-out. You didn't do any preparation. You don't know anything. You never ask a difficult question. I would love for most of our interviewers to say, what's the thing you hate worst about being here? What's the worst thing about working in this place? It's a tough question to
Yeah.
ask, but it shows that I'm valuable too. I'm not here just to pick up scraps. I think the more equal we can be in an interview, the better off you come across.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think being with SCG actually gives us a little bit of edge over a lot of other people, simply because our employment doesn't hinge on getting that next job.
True.
It could be 4 down the road, it could be somewhere else. So we're walking in, trying to find out if it's a fit that makes us work best and where we're gonna want to be for the next 6 months or whatever the time frame is, versus I'm out of work. I now need a new job to take care of paying for my family, insurance, and everything else.
And now you feel like you are
It's so much
begging for a
easier For
job.
me, I used to work, prior to this, I was 10 years as a private contractor. So I had to find the next job. When one ended, I had to go find the next one to keep my employment going. Here, I have a job when my one ends, so I can relax on the way out and I can relax on the way in, simply because I know someone else is backing me up. And this interview is not going to be the end of what I'm doing today, where I'm at. I'm still being paid today. I'm still have a job when I go in tomorrow.
That's great.
That difference, it doesn't exist anywhere else.
It's true. That's why we love STG.
And can I just reframe that just a little bit too? I think it's, how can I help you guys?
Yeah.
A lot of times you guys walk into that going, how can I be of help for you? How can I help you? Which totally changes the interview. Like, I've seen you do it plenty of times where it's like, hey, this is where I'm coming from, this is my expertise. What are you guys doing and how can I be of help?
Great points. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Jeff, for being here. And if you have any questions, I am here to help. And if I don't know the answer, I know someone who does. So thanks. All right. Give me feedback, right? All right. I did not write this minute. I know you have a meeting, but.
If you're like me, you probably already have your own.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you.